To the chief musician, a psalm of David. Hear my voice, O power, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? Psalm chapter 64, verse 1 to 5. Shalom. I want to start off by giving our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rachak, Wadash. Double honor to our venerable apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so brother Haran coming back at you with another lesson, lowering to be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. And today's title is going to be Project Esther. All right, Project Esther, or what is Project Esther? Okay, and this is something that I came across. All right, it's a national strategy to combat anti-Semitism. Okay, National Task Force to combat anti-Semitism, and this is actually published October 7th, 2024. All right, so it's exactly 1 year removed to the day. All right, removed from that October 7th, 2023 situation, which, you know, for those who are in the know, you know what time it is, but, you know, we're not going to speak too much on that based on the context, all right, of this so-called task force here, okay, known as Project Esther. Now, what intrigued me was the fact that they actually used the name Esther. Okay, and we know that these devils always use biblical names to go around committing terrorism upon the face of the earth and then demonize everybody and calls everybody else a terrorist. Okay, and we're going to read what this thing says. All right, basically, this is the setup, the beginning stages of censorship, which leads to compliance, which then leads to control. All right, so the censorship part, in order for them to get the total control, all right, by the words of Aaron Russo, all right, total control. I think when he was having his interview with Alex Collar Jones, all right, he did mention that, right, that basically that these elites of the world are gonna put a micro C-hip inside of every man, woman, and child. Okay, and basically, if you try to protest or if you try to say anything against whatever it is that they're doing, right, they could just turn off your C-hip, and what are you going to say then? Right, basically lock you out of life. Okay, so even though they tout it as, you know, the best, the next best thing, right, because Neuralink's Elon Musk, they got the 20 people that they were looking for by the end of 2025. Okay, they wanted to put that C-hip in their brains, right, their cerebral cortex, so to speak, and they finally got to that 20th person, but they're shifting into that. So basically, people who are going to be speaking against these elites and the things that they're going to be putting upon the face of the earth to basically kill off humanity, people are going to reject that. Okay, and in so doing, they'll just turn off your C-hip, and now you're locked out of everything. Okay, so yeah, they're touting it as game changers, miracles. You know, they're pretty much targeting those who are disabled and then using the technology to enable them, you know, to a degree, right? And making it seem like it's a positive thing, you know. But they got to 20 people so far. So you got 20 people that are going to be taking they've already taken the C-hip, or it's in their brain. So once it's channeled over to the monetary side, they already set. All right, they already said they're going to be able to link their bank account, right, to their brain, their C-hip, all right, in their forehead, so to speak. Okay, but yeah, I just want to read a little bit about this so-called task force to combat anti-Semitism, all right, which I see that happening big time in 2026. Okay, 2026 is just marked for a lot of shit to go down. Okay, not only is it America's 250th year, all right, but also the year 2026, all right, the number 6. Okay, but, you know, it sounds, you know, it's just right up their alley, all right, because they don't let go of that number, all right, because it is their number. Okay, the number 6, it carries a vibration on the left-hand side that, you know, enables them to get into certain things that they do upon the face of the earth. Okay, there's also an identifier of who's behind a lot of these things that's going on. Okay, but let's read this. It says here, all right, the Project Esther, right? It says the Torah, right? Listen to how these devils operate. The Torah in the book of Esther tells us that in the mid-4th century BC, a thriving Judean community, I'm going to call it that, right? Judean community in ancient Persia risked extermination. Haman, Persian king Ahasuerus, prime minister / vizier, angry because Mordecai, a Judean, refused to bow to him, told the king, let's read, and this is all biblical, right? This is in the scriptures. He said, it's interesting that they use this one right here, this quote right here, right? It says, there is a certain people scattered and separate among the peoples throughout all the provinces of your kingdom, and their laws differ from those of every people, and they do not keep the king's laws. It is therefore of no use for the king to let them be. If it pleases the king, let it be written to destroy them, and I will weigh out 10,000 silver talents into the hands of those who perform the work, to bring it into the king's treasuries. Okay, so this was Haman pitching his case to Ahasuerus, okay, in the book of Esther, as to why Jake, at that time during the Persian captivity, okay, that was Judah, okay, the Judites at that time, that's why they're saying that they're using the word Jewish, okay, which we know that there is no such thing as Jewish nation. Okay, you have the kingdom of Judah and you have the kingdom of Israel, two kingdoms that make up one house of Israel. Okay, after King Solomon had died, you had the kingdom split. Okay, you had the southern and the northern. The northern was taken over by the Assyrians, prior to the southern being taken over by the Babylonians, and then eventually down to the the Medo-Persians. Slakia. All right, but in this setting, all right, it was under the Persians, under Xerxes, otherwise known as Ahasuerus. Okay, there's the book of Esther when you get the concept of the Purim. Okay, and the concept of the Purim, the celebration of that, comes from this very situation where you have Haman plotting to hang Jake on gallows. He wanted to destroy Mordecai and so on and so forth. Okay, and the spirit had it where the children of Israel, all right, led by Esther at that time, prayed to the Lord and fasted unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Okay, and guess what happened? The Lord intervened on our behalf, and the what's the perfect word for this? The trap, or in this case, I read it in the book of Psalm. Let me see if I can find it real quick. The snare. There you go. Right, the snares that Haman had privately set up to try to get Jake. What happened? The Lord turned it around, and he got hung, and his sons got hung. Okay, I believe it was 10 sons he had. I may be wrong on that, but he got hung, and his sons got hung. And what happened? Mordecai and Esther got exalted. Okay, the same people, and then Jake was hyped. They were happy, praising the Lord, thanking the Lord. But that's how we went about it. We, as in the true children of Israel, when we were in trouble, we call upon our God, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. That's what Esther did back then with Mordecai. And what happened? The Lord came and fought on our behalf. Okay, turn the tables around on their ass for those who try to persecute us. They try to frame us. Okay, they try to create us to paint us to be demons and terrorists and so on and so forth. All right, a threat to society. And therefore, there's a justification for eliminating that threat. Right? Dismantling that threat. That's what Haman was trying to do to the Judeans, the children of Israel at that time. Okay? Judah, the kingdom of Judah, which persisted of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Okay? So now let's read how these so-called Jewish people, let's see when they say that, we're being persecuted, let's see how they go about it, because there's a pattern. The pattern is when you read the scriptures, when you read the Bible, every single time the children of Israel went into some type of captivity or they were in some type of hardship or bondage, like we are in today, what do? We always called upon our God. Look at the time of Egypt. We called upon our God, and what happened? The scripture says that the Lord had respect unto our cry. unto our voice. And then he sent Moses to go and deliver us out of the hands of the Pharaoh and the Egyptians. After 400 years. Okay? So the children of Israel is also spoken of in these last days, that what in the book of Baruch, it says that what in the land of our captivities, we shall remember ourselves. And when you remember yourselves, your first thing you do is you go back to your God. And our God is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushua. We don't hear none of these, that name, that powerful name. These people can't even say that name. They say Hashem. What kind of God is this? Who are you identifying as? If you're saying that you're the children of Israel, therefore you're the Israelites, which they don't call themselves Israelites, they call themselves Israelis, right? Zionists and so on and so on. If you say that you are God's chosen people, then the question is, why are you not calling upon the God of the Bible, the God of the Hebrews then? Why is that? Why are we calling upon that name and you not calling upon that name? That's number one. Number two, why are you not in captivity? Why are you ruling the face of the earth right now? And we are in captivity. Okay? Just like the children of Israel, or the Judeans, back then during the time of the Persians. Okay? And Haman was an Edomite. All right? Was an Edomite. Okay? Just like you Jays are Edomites today. All right? And you're trying to flip the script and make it seem like you are the good guys and you're being persecuted. Like you're creating this image, which we're about to read. All because you want to frame, all right, the righteous. You want to, hey, the scripture says it, who make an offender for the word. Let's get that real quick. Maketh a man an offender for a word. Let's read that. It says, Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 21, it says, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. So let's go right into this. All right. So we read a little bit about what it says, right? It says, it says, with the king's approval, Haman plotted to kill every Judean in Persia, drawing lots, right, to determine the day of their execution. Unbeknownst to him, or to either the king or Haman, Ahasuerus' new queen, Esther, was a Judean and therefore marked for death. Additionally, Mordecai, the man who had so enraged Haman, was also Esther's cousin. Mordecai encouraged her to use her position and influence to beseech the king to reverse course. Do not imagine to yourself that you will escape in the king's house, for among all the Jays, or Judeans, Salakia, for if you remain silent at this time, relief and rescue will arise for the Jews, or Judeans, from elsewhere, and you and your father's household will perish, and who knows whether at a time like this you will attain the kingdom. Right, so that was Mordecai basically speaking to her and telling Esther, right, that you got to go in there and do what you got to do so you could change the king's mind, right? Esther mustered the courage to oblige her cousin's plea and convince King Ahasuerus to reverse course. The result? Haman and his family were hanged. Mordecai replaced Haman as the king's vizier, and the Judean people were saved. Okay, so what happened? We prayed to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and he saved us. That's the same pattern every single time throughout the scriptures. We call upon our Lord, he comes and says a deliverer to come and deliver us. Okay, so let's read how these people, whenever they claim to be in trouble, let's see how they go about it. All right, so here it says, what is the purpose of Project Esther? Project Esther, named after the historic Jewish heroine, all right, who saved the Judeans from genocide, right, in ancient Persia. Project Esther provides a blueprint to counter anti-Semitism in the United States and ensure the security and prosperity of all Americans. You hear that? Oh, man. So it says here, anti-Semitism in the United States of America is alive and spreading. And what we're reading is pure propaganda, okay, for those who know. Okay, it says Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel laid bare existing anti-Semitism across the world, including the United States. The virulently anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and anti-American groups comprising the so-called pro-Palestinian movement inside the United States are exclusively pro-Palestinian and more so pro-Hamas. Oh, here we go. See, here we go. This is how this devil was set up, the men of the Lord, number one, but then it trickles down to anybody who speaks up against their system. This is about censorship, all right, to create fear, then to bring about compliance, and then that compliance brings what? Complete control. Okay? So that's what this is all about. All right, eliminate those who speak the truth and notice all these patterns and question these things. All right, because they've done psychological tests, and they know that for the most part, people will always comply against their will because they're afraid of a public humiliation, right? They don't want to be like, oh, I'm the only one left. Like, they've done these tests. You watch these little psychological tests that they'll do where they'll have one person who doesn't know that they're a test subject, but then everybody else is part of the test. And then probably like an elevator. There's one that was in the elevator, and girl goes in, and then the people follow in. So then as soon as they go in there, all of them turn to the opposite side. So now they're looking, instead of looking at the door like normal people, they look into the side of the elevator, and she's looking facing towards the door. So she looks around. She's like, oh shit, why the fuck is everybody looking towards the outside of the elevator? So instead that she turns to the other side, going from looking towards the door to now she's looking at the side of the elevator, which is completely, abnormal. But why? Because everyone around her was doing it. She didn't understand why they were doing it, but she saw everyone doing it, so shit, let me do it too, so I don't look like the odd one out. So Esau knows that people don't want to be looked at as odd ones out, especially when you get humiliated, all right, you get ostracized, you get persecuted, okay, you get villainized, okay, you get threatened, all right, your life being threatened all the goddamn time, right? You feel like, like everywhere you go, you feel like somebody's chasing you or something, Nobody wants to feel that way. So Esau is he's basically using that as a tactic, all right, that psychological tactic to wear people down. Okay, there's another one where it was a bunch of guys sitting there, and then the test subject is in there. He doesn't know what's going on. So then the scientist shows the numbers, the lines, how many are identical, and so on and so forth. So he sees 1, 2. He says 1. And then the other person says 1. The other person says 1. The other person says 1. So okay, cool, correct. Move to the next one. I think when it got to the third one, the numbers were completely off. Like 1 didn't look like 2 anymore. 1 looked like 3 now. But the first person said 1 looks like 2. And then the next person, 1 looks like 2. And it gets to him, and he knows 1 looks like 3, but not 2. He goes, oh, it looks like 2. Because everybody said it looks like 2. Even though he knows it looks like 3. You see? So that's also part of, again, another example of how Esau, knows and understands psychology. And he uses dark psychology, man, on a mass scale. Witchcraft and all. Okay? And this is part of the witchcraft, what we're reading right now. All right, they're fermenting, all right, this concept of a network. Let's listen. It says they are part of a highly organized global Hamas support network, which is abbreviated as HSN. Okay, so as we go through the reading, if you hear HSN, it means Hamas support network. Okay, and it's very important to remember that, right? It says, and therefore effectively a TS support network. You hear that? That's the verbiage they're using. You see, this is what we just read in Psalm 64. Okay, let's get that. Let's bring that back. Psalm 64. Right? Psalm 64. And verse 3, it says, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. They always use what is known as double speak. All right, Esau uses double speak. All right, he uses what's the other term that they use? Oh shit, it'll come back. All right, double speak. Okay, and there's another term. It'll come back to me. But that's what they do. They'll speak. There's a certain way they speak is to confuse people. All right, they say certain things that's like, yo, you're saying the opposite of what you're actually doing, but you're pitching it like it's actually something helpful. It's a high level of witchcraft, man. It's crazy. Okay, gaslighting. Okay, so it says what they bend. So it says bend their bows to shoot their arrows. Even bitter words. Bitter words going into what? These draconian measures. Okay, they set up the stage. All right, so they're justified in bringing all these draconian measures that otherwise people would not even go for. All right, but they got to set the stage, and this is what they're doing. Okay, this is what they're doing. So it says here, the current situation. It says the HSN's strategic purpose inside the United States is to generate internal political pressure to compel the United States government to change its long-standing policy of support for Israel. Wow, ain't that some shit? So this is a network of Hamas niggas who their agenda, like they're Hamas now. This is all the way in Palestine, like they said, right? Oh, these people are a terrorist group. Them people, all of a sudden, they have an interest in America and its politics, so much so that they want to have or generate internal political pressure to compel the United States government to change its long-standing policy of support for Israel. That's what you want people to believe. Let's keep dissecting this thing. It says within the United States, the HSN receives the indispensable support of a vast network of activists and funders with a much more ambitious, insidious goal: the destruction of capitalism and democracy. Wow. Oh, shit. Mind you, this came out in 2024. I might have said 2014 earlier, but I meant 2024. Okay? So that's last year. All right? And we're entering into 2026, so 2 years removed. So let's see. We already see them playing the game out in Australia. So let's keep an eye, keep a close eye on how they move over there as well. Okay? Hey man, we're seeing this thing come together, and it's happening on a daily basis. Every day, something new is happening that's hastening the process to this MOTB, man. All right, the infrastructure is definitely, all right, almost pretty much set. Once some data centers go up, you're gonna see things pop off even more, right? Because now AI is gonna be in full control. Okay, and then not to mention, once they finish that so-called ballroom out in the East Wing out there, well. All right. It says as their ends align, the HSN, which is the Hamas support network, and its nihilists, that's the word they're using, right? The same word that Albert Pike used in his letter to Giuseppe Mazzini about the releasing of the nihilists, right? So let's read. It says HSN and its nihilist supporters indoctrinate the gullible into supporting Hamas and hating Israel to create the street mayhem that serves their ends. This network is normally American, right? It's Hamas, but it's American, but benefits from the support and training of America's overseas enemies. Its members hope to achieve their goals by taking advantage of our open society, corrupting our education system. However they're going to do that, I'm not sure. Leveraging the American media, like we have some type of control over the American media, right? Right. Co-opting the federal government, like, okay, interesting, and relying on the American Jayish community's complacency. So now they want to tap into the emotions of the Jays. That's why things like Bondi will happen. That's why things like Brooklyn or Queens or somewhere where you have predominantly J people there, all right, they're gonna use them they minding their own business, mind you, right? They're doing their own thing, minding their own business. Nobody's bothering them, right, for the most part. But all of a sudden, we're gonna start seeing. All of a sudden, people just have this personal vendetta. Oh, I woke up this morning and I feel some type of way about the Jays, so I just went up there and I did some harm to them. So now it's all plastered all over the news about anti-Semitism and hate against these people. And sheesh. So we know the blueprint. Most people are noticing the blueprint, so that's why they're coming up with this shit. Okay? Now they're building this network. It says, mission statement. It says, the National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism leads a coalition to dismantle the infrastructure that sustains the HSN, that's the Hamas Support Network, and associated movements, anti-Semitism, violence inside the United States of America within 12 to 24 months to restore equal protection under the law for all Americans. That's their mission statement. Okay? Now, we're going to jump over a little bit because this is a 33-page, interesting, right? 33-page file, all right, on and it's on the heritage.org, I believe, Heritage Foundation. Okay. So let's go down. I want to go down to the how they're going to be able to, what their plans on how they're going to be putting things together. So let's read. Let's see if I can find it here. Right. All right. So it says Project Esther's purpose. It says our goal is to provide a strategic blueprint to all Americans who are willing to counter anti-Sem in the United States so that they can protect not only American Jewry, but the sanctity of the core values derived from our founding documents that ensure the security and prosperity of all Americans. You see, the problem with this statement right here is you're going up against prophecy by coming up with this type of bullshit. All right, because the prophecy says that America is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire. All indications point to that. All right, if you haven't opened your eyes and seen lately, you see all these things that's going on in the so-called Middle East. All right, you got countries and, we're talking about major countries, China, Russia, right? You got Turkey in the mix. These countries that we just mentioned have something known as thermonuclear bombs, all right? ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, okay? Now, NATO, which is headed by America, is slowly but surely through proxy, all right, with these different nations provoking Russia. The prophecy states that ultimately the bear, all right, which is Russia, is going to take out this bitch, this beast, all right, this whore, all right, America. Okay, when you read Revelation 18, it talks that's the closing, all right, of America's existence, and it goes up in flames. That's how it ends. Okay. So all this tension and this and testing and listen, we are living in those days. All the signs are pointing to that. And scriptures, Yahushua said, right, in the book of Luke, all right, that people going to be living like in the time of the days of Noah. They're going to be eating, they're going to be drinking, they're going to be chilling, all right? They're going to be marrying and giving into marriage, all right? Until the day where the Lord makes his return. Okay, people going to be micro-C-hipped, going to C-hip parties, right? Because they're going to be celebrated, right? You in the world, you feel like you've done something, you've pledged your allegiance, so now you're good, all right? So yeah, man, that's what they got planned, bro. That's what's coming. All right, they got their own shit planned, but the Lord has, all right, his prophecies that are about to play out, which is America's destruction. Okay, so they ain't gonna be no prosperity for Americans. It's just a futile effort. All this shit is just to get the support, okay, from the people who are saying, oh, pro-Palestine. They want to stop that kind of rhetoric because they're committing genocide. Okay, and when people are watching these videos and seeing these things that's going on out there, and they're like, yo, this is getting out of hand. See what I'm saying? They're like, nah, if you people are doing all this, then we don't want nothing to do with you. Why are we sending money to Israel and this and that? People are questioning that. People are starting to press back. And that's slowing down. Because remember, America is Israel's manufacturing beast. Like that's his machine. When it comes to war, military, politics, whatever the case may be, America is Israel's machine that they use. Okay? They have the biggest consumers, like a lot of things that people consume here in America comes from Israel. It starts from Israel, right? Whether it be the medical field or even food or whatever the case may be. All right. So they use America as its driving force, its tool for control over the planet, all over the planet Earth right now. Okay. So that's why it's important for them to have their hands, all right, behind the backs of these so-called politicians. Okay. These so-called presidents, all right, because through them, you get power into the money, all right, the banks, all right, they got power through there, okay, through the military, okay, that's why you have Alex Carper and Palantir and them getting rewarded tens of billions of dollars of contracts, military contracts, When you trace them all back, they go back to the J's. All right, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and all these companies. All right, DARPA, okay? Boston Dynamics. When you actually trace it all back, they go back to the J's, man. All right, they have all this power. Oracle, okay? So they're the ones who have the power, but yet they're trying to play this game like, they're being persecuted and there's this pro-Palestinian and anti-Zionist blah blah blah. Nah, bro. You guys got all the power and all the control, and you wield the sword that's in your hand whichever way you want, and you just destroying lives, man. You have control. Look at all these corporations, bro. Blackstone, BlackRock, all the Vanguard. People are suffering in this world, and these devils keep on raking on more money, more and more money, more power, more control, and then they turn around and play the victim. And people are seeing it, and they're sick of it. All right, so let's keep reading. It says, let's see, must have missed something here. Okay, we're gonna skip. This is quite a lot, so we're gonna skip all the way to. Let's see here. All right, so they have strategic goals. Okay, they have strategic goals, desired end state, right? Which is their desired end state, which is ES, right? Establishing the following criteria, which mirror current conditions, which will achieve our desired end state, right? It's very interesting verbiage, but we're gonna skip a little bit. Then they kind of tie in, the Ku Klux Klan and stuff like that. They tie it all in to make it seem like they how you play the victim when it comes to Ku Klux Klan. How you gonna take blame? How you gonna take victimhood for that? It's amazing to me. So we're gonna skip down to let's see. Yep, there you go. This page right here. All right, NC 18. Right, it says progressive left support to Hamas caucus is unattainable. Okay, so they're gonna create laws, all right, that's gonna make basically the concept of anything that has to do with you being deemed a T, right? It starts with this whole Hamas network shit, but then it expands through something known as the Patriot Act. Once you're deemed a so-called T, they have the right to come against you by way of war. Okay, and Americans since 1933, Americans have been deemed the enemies of the state. Okay, so the enemies of the state in this case, they're just switching over that name of the title or identifying label as enemy of the state to T or domestic T. Okay, it says evidence of HSOs, Hamas support organizations, criminal activity gathered, right? So they're going to create laws to have so-called law enforcement, and through Oracle and Palantir and all these Doge, right? They're going to be gathering information on people, okay? And then they're going to make criminals out of people, all right? That's where Psalm 64 we just read, all right? That who wet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. Okay, so by creating this so-called evidence of criminal activity, they're gonna be you'll be justified in coming against anyone that is deemed a T. And what are some of the things that could be called criminal or crime? You just spoke against the government, or you voiced an opinion that was contrary to the given narrative. That alone will land you on the red list. That's how serious this thing is. All right. NC20 says social media view HSO's presence as a liability. So you're going to be off of social media. They're going to cut us off of YouTube and so on and so forth based on the content, right? Oh, this is dangerous content. We can't have that on our platform. Instagram, they're going to shut your shit down because everything's going to be linked, right? Facebook and all these other platforms, man. All right. Social media platforms unwilling to host or promote HSOs, right? So, you see how these platforms, you have the You'll have Bitch Nate pop up and, he'd be doing these interviews and all this extra stuff. He'd be lying to people and shit, right? Those platforms that allow that, they're going to be shut down. All right, they're going to be deemed as allowing anti-Semitism content on their platform. Therefore, they're not allowed to even, they'll be demonetized, of course. They'll be demonized. They're going to be shamed. They're going to be ridiculed. They're going to be condemned, like, heavily. Okay? Everyone's going to be talking about them, right? Basically, the whole media platform, everybody, if you say what they did to Kyrie. Remember what happened to Kyrie? The whole NBA, everybody, hey, Kyrie's an idiot. He's this, he's that. Oh, you selfish, you this. All that shit. You see? It says, and they'll pay people to push your threats on your life. You're gonna have bald ass Stephen A. Smith say, yo, hey man, if you out there, right, and you speaking against the Jewish people, you claiming that you an Israelite, you're this, you're that. If you out there, and anyone see any one of you Hebrew Israelites out there, hey, they have every right to put their hands on you. See, so Esau gonna be testing it like that, right? Brothers gonna be getting their lives threatened. See, but all these things, the Lord is gonna come through for us. Okay, Esau is just creating a hostile environment, just so they're justified in bringing on that force. Okay. It says, NC21, social media platforms are willing to host or promote HSOs. NC22, social media users do not want to be affiliated with HSOs. So they're going to set up a system or / law that's going to make it where you don't even want to be around that. Right? It's like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist? Oh, yeah, we don't want to do with you. The concept of that is like you're just looked at as a legit terrorist. Like, yo, nah. You see, but the funny thing is, if you're so dangerous in society, why don't you just get rid of them? Why don't you just come grab us up and get us up out of here? You're just creating this world just so we're just excluded from it. But yet we're so dangerous and shit, right? Fuck out of here. It says, social media users do not want to be affiliated with HSOs. HSOs do not trust each other, right? So they're gonna create. Once again, this is all things that they're gonna fabricate. They're gonna create these things. All right, they're going to have laws and stuff in place where you're going to have people snitching on people, right? They're going to be pitching one person against the other, right? So nobody could trust each other. That's another tactic of Esau right there, divide and conquer. Okay. Localities unwilling to grant permits to HSO demonstrations or protests, right? So once you're deemed on that list, or you're looked at as a T, you're on that red list. These things you'll be affected. You're asked out. Okay, it's that branding that they're gonna put on you to shut you out of society, right? Without physically doing anything to you, they're just gonna set you up where they just put you out there. Potential demonstrators fear affiliation with HSOs, right? Because nobody wants to be looked at as a threat to society like that. Oh, you're just a threat. You're just a threat. HSOs present a threat, that's the word, to American, Jewish, and otherwise livelihoods. See? So you're a threat to everyone. See what I'm saying? You're a threat to everyone. HSOs present a threat to Americans' personal beliefs. Really? That's crazy. Critical vulnerabilities identified. Right? So whatever that means. But I want to highlight just a few of these, right? HSOs present a threat to Americans' personal beliefs, right? So they're tapping into the truth, right? The truth is causing a lot of people to question this bullshit ass American life that they've been living all these years, right? Like Al Gore said that the mainstream media is not working. Like their witchcraft through the media is not working like it used to. Their magic, their Disney magic, right? It's not working like it used to. So now they become so desperate. They gotta go push the AI to deceive people into, oh my goodness. All right, but there's Esau for you. All right, that's this devil for you, man. Okay, but this is the gist of Project Esther. All right, is to start to basically use all their resources in the media and so on and so forth to start demonizing, all right, anyone who's going to be speaking up or criticizing anything that these Jays are doing upon the face of the earth. All right, whether it be the new technology that's coming out, whether it be the wars that's being pushed, all right, the genocide in Gaza, all right, the Gaza area, okay, even the struggling that Americans are about to be going through. They're gonna be questioning all these things because these devils have made it so obvious. All right, so now people are seeing it. People seeing it. You got forget this guy's name. He comes on stage and he grabs Trump by the neck. He grabs him by the neck and he's like his boy, like his young boy. Like, yo, you know, I told him that, yo, back in 2016, hey, you were the first Jewish president. You know, Trump laughing, he said, yeah, he's right. That's true. I said, oh. So they just put it right in their face, right? To see what they're going to do. And what they do, just go along with it. Like ain't nothing going on. All the people sitting there, they were laughing and giggling and shit. I'm like, you people are done. These Americans, they are done. You played along with a stupid game, you about to win a stupid prize. You people are done. All right? They got the game. Hey, this thing is in the bag now. It's in the bag now. All right, in 2026, they're going to open up that bag and we're going to see some things. Oh, we're going to see some things. All right? Yahweh Shemel Shai got a whole lot of tricks. And he's about to pass them out. Okay? No treats, just tricks. He's about to pass them all out. Okay? Shit. So yeah, just get ready. Right? They said they're going to be using they said they're going to use all available analytic tools. All right, commercial or private. They're going to use all of them. So yeah, get ready. All right, this is this is their Haman attempt. All right, Haman attempt 2.0. I wouldn't be surprised if vocab finds his way in this whole mess. Okay, to combat anti-Semitism. All right, National Task Force, Project Esther. All right, so let's see how it plays out. But just want to bring some awareness to it, right? So get ready when it happens. You're not surprised. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it off there low, and you're edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakodash, the water Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Until next time, Shalom.
And these people do like Israel.
Hold on. And he loves Israel too.
It's true.
2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. 6 years ago, I was up here, and I said, "This is our first Jewish president."
It's true.
Now he's the first Jewish president to serve two not consecutive presidencies. We thank you
That's
for
right.
everything.
That's right.